Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about important factors when considering an energy upgrade to your historic or vintage home here in the Northwest. So what are some of the general things you can do, practical things that you can do in some of those changes?
Well, sometimes what happens is, as I mentioned, you can go up in the attic and not see too much insulation up there. So a lot of times what we'll do is have companies will come in with a great big vacuum and they'll suck out the insulation in the attic. Whatever is up there sometimes is pretty poor. And there's other things that have been up there like animals and rodents,
Right.
so we kind of clean up that
it
space.
out.
And then what you end up doing is you look down into the conditioned space and you can see gaps and wall partitions and great big holes that air is blowing up in your face from downstairs. You can find some pretty big holes in older houses. So we'll put pieces of foam, squirt some caulk, use some spray foam, and do a good job of trying to reduce the air leakage into the attic. Because that creates some other problems. Once I begin insulating the attic, which would be the next logical step, I can't let...
Because that's the biggest air leakage?
Well, usually, yeah, it's the easiest one to get to. For example, if I'm leaking air in the walls, it's a little harder to get to. The attic is quite easy.
Right.
I've got access to look up in the attic and see all this exposed attic. It's also that warm air rises, so if in the wintertime the warm air is getting to the top, it wants to leave.
Yeah.
If the air leaves the house, it has to get replaced as well, which means the cold air comes in from down below, and the warm air, once I've paid for it to get it warm, leaks out through the top. So if I could seal up the lid, it slows down the amount of cold air coming in, so it's also the easiest and least expensive. So if I get a good job of sealing in the attic, then I can bring an insulator in to insulate the attic with a nice, deep, wonderful insulation, cellulose or fiberglass. But if I don't seal the holes and I insulate anyway, the attic is now cold. And what will happen is all that moisture that used to climb up into the attic now finds a cold attic.
I've seen that with mold in attics.
Correct.
That's where it's coming from.
It comes from, yeah, it's generated by the occupants in the house. So the idea is to start looking at the building as if I could start air sealing the building, I can start making thermal improvements. But every time I make an adjustment, I have to step back and say, okay, what did that adjustment do to the building? And so we have people, for example, that blow insulation in the walls. As they do that, they change the old house's balance. It was doing great. It was leaking energy and it was flying through the building and the bills were high. If I just blow insulation in the wall cavities, I now have a cold wall and moisture can move through. So again, I need ventilation to manage the air, not only for the occupants' health, but also for managing moisture. So if I put fresh air in the house, it controls excess moisture generated by me and provides my family with a level of fresh air. That's a really nice, very reasonably priced balance to improving energy. So you can see those are important steps, right? Sealing the building up tighter, providing ventilation, and watching combustion safety. Once I have those, I know I have safe, healthy, and more efficient. Now I can begin doing some other modifications.
So what you're saying is every time you do something, you need to step back, reanalyze how you've changed the home itself before you go into the next step. That might even tell you what your next step is.
Yeah, and especially if you're looking at things, I want to do some remodeling to fix a kitchen or a bedroom, feels more aesthetic, right? But I don't enjoy doing that retrofit stuff because I don't get to see it, except I get to experience it. So I think there's a balance between healthier, safer, more efficient buildings to do based on lifestyle and what I want to do. I want to be able to walk around without my slippers and a jacket on in the house, right? So I think those are fundamentals. And each time you make that adjustment, you do have to step back and say, so is there anything that I put at risk? It's part of why I said that when you get to a certain tightness, I have to go check the water heater and the furnace to make sure they're venting, right? And the old fireplace we had, we put the wood in the fireplace, it burned fine until I air sealed the attic. Now I put the attic in and the smoke's coming back. And that was part of how we changed the dynamics of the building. So many times builders will go in and a remodeler might go in and change the house and improve some air tightness and find out that the water heater or the furnace are spilling in the basement, putting the homeowners at risk. So those have to be kind of choices that come together. As I make one change, I got to watch for the other.
Great.
Good.
Awesome.
Great
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. That was
Nice to meet you.
awesome.
Thank you, sir.